Morning, brothers and sisters. I thought we'd do just a quick video today for 8th-day dawning. Nothing too strenuous on my brain. I'm just going to share with you some words that come my way. I have to say it's through the Spirit's leading, not through anybody else's way. We've been having studies on this channel. We've been looking at things. You can come along for it or not. So this was the word I got thrown at me. With Strong's Hebrew 152, and we're going to look at that in a minute. But the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to look at another word that we've looked extensively at on this channel. And the reason that I'm doing this is because we're trying to actually link all of the old gods originally back to king. All right, just to the word king. That actually comes from the original god here called Beelzebub. Okay, so let's take a look at that. In the Strong's Greek, the Beelzebub is 954. And this is what it says of Beelzebub. And we're going to find him right back here in the Old Testament. So for those who think you can study your New Testament without actually going back into your Old and understanding what went on in there, there's no possibility of you separating the two and just going all new. There's no way you can do that. You can't. I don't care what anybody says. So 954, it says Beelzebub, a name of Satan. Beelzebub, a name of Satan. The chief of evil spirits. This is important to note. It's the chief of evil spirits. Beelzebub transliterated or transliterated. It's got from Old Testament 1176. Beelzebub, the Lord of Flies, or fly god. Beelzebub, a title of Satan, which stresses he is the prince over the demons, demonic flies. So it says, see also 4, 5, 6, 7. So let's hit on that. Okay, we're just gonna do nothing too difficult here. That takes us to 5, 6, 7. Of course, the adversary, Satan, the devil. So you understand, we were actually looking at Beelzebub, which was another title for, what did it say? Satan, right? Let's look back here again. Yeah, it's the name of Satan, Beelzebub. So we understand why this is so important to understand it. So when we hit on that, adversary, Satan, the devil, Chaldee, I meant to look the pronunciation of that up. Chaldee or Chaldean origin corresponding to my bad. You see a lot of the stars, this became like a byword with a lot of characters in shows. They'll go, my bad, they'll do. You know what they're really saying? My bad. It's a work of the accuser, my bad. Yeah, that's the word. It's an actual Hebrew word. A bad, an act, a work. So if we go back, so it's corresponding to my bad. It's with a definite affix, the accuser, the devil, Satan. So you see a lot of the stars in Hollywood and shows going, my bad, my bad. They're really showing you a strong connection to the accuser. That's really what they're doing. They'll work these Hebrew words in a variety of ways if you pay careful attention to what they're doing. So we get that with Beelzebub. We'll scroll down here. All right, this is fun. It says of uncertain origin, Baal. Really? It's uncertain? Beelzebub? No, it ain't. I guess these people didn't really do their study all that well, did they? Because, yeah, there it does say it. A false god of the Ekronites, and it's found in 2 Kings 1:2. This is where Beelzebub originated from, your dung gods. It comes back to Baal, your husband, who wanted to rule over his other half, his spirit, his own wife in covenant. We find her being shot at in Genesis 49, 23, 24. And it is Baal, archer, shooting at her, the scions, the female, the daughters of Israel. So, it says, by parody on Beelzebub, dung god. Yeah, because he was what he spilled was a load of crap. He actually founded the world on a load of dung, is what it's telling us. So we have to, take note of the fact that he is the chief of the demons. And it links us to the name Satan. It's another name for Satan. It's Baal, husband, the accuser, because, and we know this, and it's an idolatrous image. We've looked at this. But, okay, before we do all that, let's look at where Beelzebub is in the Old Testament. So we looked at this in our other videos there, just the last two that I posted. So, 2 Kings chapter 1, Then Moab rebelled against Israel after the death of Ahab, and Ahaziah fell down through a lattice in his upper chamber that was in Samaria, and was sick. And he sent messengers and said unto them, Go inquire of Beelzebub, you see, the god of Ekron, whether I shall recover of this disease. But the angel of the Lord, or the presence, we know who the presence is, we've looked at it, of the Lord said to Elijah the Tishbite, Arise, go up to meet the messenger of the king of Samaria, and say unto him, Is it not because there is not a God in Israel? You see, Israel means God wrestles. God on earth was the presence of God known as the daughters of Israel. So, is it not because there is not a God in Israel that ye go to inquire of Beelzebub, the god of Ekron? So now therefore thus saith the Lord, Thou shalt not come down from that bed on which thou art gone up, but shall surely die. And Elijah departed. So we see Beelzebub in the Old Testament, and it was a king that he was actually sending to. So let's look that up. Let's go in here. Okay, we'll just pull this up and hit on it from there. Hit the wrong one. Now, yeah, that's the right one. So, what does it say of Beelzebub in 2 Kings 1:2? What's the number? I'm looking after the Strongs. Okay, it's 1176. This is what it's going to tell you. Baal of flies, a Philistine god. We defined what it meant to be a Philistine. So if we hit on Zebub, a fly, a Zebub is a fly, and Baal, a Phoenician deity. Baal, plural of what? Balaam, right? Balaam's important because it was Balaam that told Balak to send the women in to contaminate the woman's seed of Israel, right, with a lie. Baal's lie, husband, as Lord and God. So now you can look at all those words. That'll be an easy study, actually. And you can go to Wikipedia and look them up, too, because it gets to be really fascinating. And it breaks it all down, how all these Old Testament gods was really kings, princes or kings that was born in various lands that then made themselves and gave themselves a god name and then wrote all of this mythology around kings as gods, all right? Is your basic understanding in the Old Testament. So if we go to, first we'll go to this word, Strong's Hebrew 152, all right? And this is what it's going to tell us. My computer's being difficult. Adrammelech is the word you're going to pull up, 152 Strong's Hebrew. Adar is prince, is what it means. An Assyrian idol, also a son of who? Sennacherib. So we might want to look at Sennacherib for those of us who aren't highly educated. Yeah, by the system, the world's system. We're led by the Spirit. The Spirit is the one that is supposed to be teaching us all truth. So that's why God says, and I'll just briefly say this, God will use the weak things to confound the mighty. So God chooses the weak of us to teach her truth too. The Holy Spirit does. So Adrammelech, Adar is prince, an Assyrian idol, also a son of Sennacherib. So we want to write that name down. And you know what? Just before we move on here, and I tend to do this a lot, let's do that. Let's write this name right out and see what we can see in it. All right. So we got, okay, so it's poor writing. Let me pull up my camera here. See if we can't make this more complicated. Let's see what the word looks like here. Okay, you don't see it very well, do you? Let's do it another way. Let's just print it. Sennacherib. Okay, so this is it written out. Printed out. Written, printed. So you know what I did? Can you see another word in that word? A word within a word? Do you see it like I see it? I broke it in this way. There goes my... I broke it as Senna. And then this word. Cherub. That's what I did. That's what I speculated. Sennacherib is how I broke it down. You know what? We'll look at that in a minute. First, we're going to look at this dude, 152. So his name was Adrammelech. Adar is prince. An Assyrian idol, also a son of Sennacherib. Okay, and you know what it's derived from, right? This God's name, or this Adar is prince of Sennacherib, but it's also an Assyrian idol. What was Baal? It was an idolatrous idol. Here we've gotten Adrammelech or Adrammelech, which is an Assyrian idol. I forget what Baal was. A Phoenician deity? I think it said it was Phoenician. But it was found in many of them. It's also, I think, a Canaanite deity. I can't remember all the information. It's easy enough to study it and pull it up and look at it. And when you get going through so much information, it's just hard to retain it all. So the fact is, it's an Assyrian idol, this Adrammelech. Adrammelech. Melech means king in Hebrew. So right here, we're getting the word king. A god who's a king. Really, a physical king. From Adar and Melech, splendor of the king. Adrammelech, the name of an Assyrian idol, also a son of Sennacherib. So right there we're seeing a son, a prince that was born to a king, which was Sennacherib, and his name means a god who was an idol of Assyria. You see the connect of a king being made a god? They simply made themselves gods, is what they did, little g. And we see Beelzebub, which then is linked to the word husband, which is then, we're told in the New Testament, is the prince, the chief of them all. That's what we see, right? Okay. So where else do we want to go? Just looking quickly here. So we know Baal is a heathen god. It's a Phoenician deity. Baal, plural, Balaam. So it's telling you right there, you got to look at Balaam and Balak and what they did to the woman's seed. Okay. So Beelzebub, another name for Satan. It was a Philistine god. Back we go. to Beelzebub. And we're told very important details about this to follow it. Satan, the chief of evil spirit. Beelzebub, a name of Satan. Now, Satan is also known as the accuser. He accused his own spirit of being a harlot. That's what the accusation is. And told many, many lies about her. And eventually removed the spirit of her covenant out of the land, is what we're told. Now, a harlot, we're told, definition of harlot in the Old Testament is akin to you who bow to an idolatrous idol. So it's not distinctly female. Though when you bring in the word Baal, husband, then it becomes distinctly female. But we're told in the Old Testament that your harlots were both male and female, and that both bowed to idols. All right, that were not God. And what it ends up being is this chief idol, Baal, who is Satan, the accuser, but is also the chief of the evil spirits. And indeed he is, because Satan ends up being your accuser in the very beginning, known as Adam, your husband, Baal. You see how it all links back? It's on us to do the hard study, and it's really not that hard to do the study. So we're going to go look at Sennacherib here, because he's important to look at, because he was the father of Adrammelech, who had the same name of an Assyrian idol. So Sennacherib, if we look up it on Wikipedia, this little pictograph that they have off to the side here, it says king of Assyria. So he was king of Assyria. He was king of Babylon. He was king of the four corners of the world. Ooh, look at that. I wonder how a religious lie would feed out to the four corners of the world. Oh, Balaam, with Balak contaminating the woman's seed, which was responsible for the covenant of the true living God on earth. Are we not seeing the big connect going on here? Are we not seeing that? And King of the Universe is another one of his titles. So let's read a little bit of information. I'll post this link underneath the video. So, meaning of his name, even though we broke it down, we'll look at this in a minute. I got to remember to do that. Means sin has replaced the brothers. Now, sin has that double meaning to it, doesn't it? Sin, S-I-N. We know what sin means. But watch what else sin means. Is this the sin they were talking about in the Old Testament that chased us? Transferring the true living God that could give eternal life over to made up gods, kings, exalting themselves as gods on earth. You think that might be it? I think that's what it is, given the fact that Baal is another name for Satan. Baal leads you straight back to the accuser in the very beginning, pointing at his wife, saying, well, it's her fault, it's her fault, it's her fault. That gives him power. That empowered him on earth. It did. So what does this word sin, or suin, and in Aramaic, S-Y-N, or S-Y-N, or even S-H-R. Guess what that means? Moon. Or Nanar, N-A-N-N-A-R, was the god of the moon and planet in the Mesopotamian religions of Sumer, Akkad, Assyria, and Babylonian in Aram, and was worshipped in the Islamic period in Haran. Okay, so we see what sin means. It actually means moon. We see the moon at Virgo's feet in the Revelation 12 sign. So again, there's a connection there. So the moon is largely regarded as the ruler of the night, right? That's the light that you kind of see. And from there, it looks like the powers of darkness may rule and put in play what's that false sun that's in our sky. Yeah. So all that is connected there. Okay, so the meaning sin has replaced the brothers. He was the king of Neo-Assyrian Empire from the death of his father Sargon II in 705 BC. So that's another thing to be looked at. Sargon, very important information there for anybody who really wants to study and understand the rabbit hole that we've gone down, the big old lie that we've been under, that Baal, bridegroom, is your Lord and Master, and he shed his blood to die for you, to wash in it. You get stained in blood, you don't wash in it. Water is what cleanses you. And water is akin to the law of God, which was akin to her 10 commandments. Even a child can kind of understand it. And that's what's needed. You know, if we're really going to attack this problem, we have to be able to do it in a means that every one of us can understand. That's right. And that gets to be deep in your thoughts. But since we're not discussing that, I got to move on. So the second king of the Sargonid dynasty, Sennacherib, is one of the most famous Assyrian kings for his role that he played in the Hebrew Bible. His name pops up everywhere, which describes his campaign in the Levant. So we know what the Levant is. Other events of his reign includes his destruction of the city of Babylon in 689 BC and his renovation and expansion of the last great Assyrian capital, Nineveh. Now, when you get reading, this gets to be very interesting. And although Sennacherib was one of the most powerful and wide-ranging Assyrian kings, he faced considerable difficulty in controlling Babylonia, which formed the southern portion of his empire. This is where we hit on another god coming up. Many of Sennacherib's Babylonian troubles stemmed from the Chaldeans or Chaldean tribal chief, who? Marduk, Apladenia or Apladina II, who had been Babylon's king until Sennacherib's father defeated him. So there we go with the name Marduk. Now, if we go to, is it 1 Kings 19? We see who King Solomon. Let's do that, because I can't remember. I have such a poor memory. Let's go to 1 Kings. I believe it's 1 Kings 19. No, it's 11. Yeah, it's 11. But we're told, I believe, in this chapter, 1 Kings chapter 11, that Solomon bowed to Marduk, the god Marduk. Well, here we see the god Marduk connected to Babylon as nothing more than a mortal king. All right? You see where we're going in our thinking? How Satan is so much cleverer than you are, girls, boys? How he's got you bowing to a religious idol himself, Baal, your bridegroom who washed you in blood. He gave you a law of blood, of violence. He gave you a beast system, and you're still bowing to it. Yeah. But you see, right here, it's Molech that he bows to. Then did Solomon build on high place for Chemosh, the abomination of Moab, and the hill that is before Jerusalem, and for Molech, the abomination of the children of the Ammonites. For Solomon went after Ashtaroth, the goddess of the Zidonians, and after Milcom, right, the abominations of the Ammonites. So he went whoring after all of these gods. And in the beginning, the goddesses were there, but they disappear from view as Baal takes full control of everything as the God of the heavens. So, and that links us to what Sennacherib's titles is here. King of the four corners of the world, King of the universe, King of Babylon, King of Assyria. And yet we see his son, who was named Adrammelech, also the same name as a god. All right? So we see the kings building themselves up as great gods. And then we see the chief of all the demons listed as Beelzebub, which takes you straight back to your husband, your accuser, in the garden. So Sennacherib, I speculated that the breakdown is Senna, S-E-N-N-A, and then cherub or cherub. That's interesting. I haven't looked any further than that, but I have looked at Senna. So I Googled it. Not Googled it. I punched it in for Strong's Hebrew. Senna, S-E-N-N-A. You know what it threw at me? Strong's Hebrew 5572. A blackberry bush. A bush. A thorny bush. That's what it threw at me. So the first part of Sennacherib's name means a thorny bush. Senna. Yeah. From an unused root meaning to prick, a bramble, a bush. So in that aspect there, and I wrote that verse under one of my videos, I wrote that, watch what it says. I'll find the verse and we'll read it together before I go. So we're breaking down the allegories. So, for their mother, Hosea 2, we'll do verse 5. For their mother has played the harlot, and has conceived them in disgrace. For she thought, I will go after my lovers, who give me bread and water, wool and linen, oil and drink. So there we see her turning away from the true living God, her mother, in the heavens, who gives life to all things. She's slowly turning to her husband, who's built himself as God on the earth, and has slowly walled up her way, her pathway, have marred her path with the religious lies, which began with the accusations in the garden to his own spouse, his own spirit of his own covenant. We're told in Malachi 2, he dealt treacherously with her, yet is she the spirit of the covenant. She will be restored. And because of that accusation, they slowly began to gnash upon the spirit of her covenant, and over time removed these daughters of the land, where we see Balaam and Balak, a huge part of actually attacking the woman's seed in the wanderings. And then she gets cast out into the lands of the Gentiles, which is really full of the promises that the true living God really made to her and said, I will enlarge in your birthright and you'll claim them all for your very own. So Hosea 2, here it's her, the mother, but it truly began with the accusation of Baal, husband, Satan, who accused her. And so then we saw her being torn down, and now we have her completely turned to her husband as if he's the God that'll take care of her and defend her, when he's really the one who tore her down in the first place. Therefore, behold, I will hedge up her path with thorns. You see? I will enclose her with a wall so she cannot find her way. See? So this verse, and so we see the thorn bushes. It says Israel will be surrounded with thorns and thistles. And it's addressing all those kingly nations, the Adamic nations, who were ruled by kings who made themselves these false gods. That now you can look at the pantheon of gods in Wikipedia, and they're all these great gods who had power over everything. Just look at it. And yet it links everyone back to a mortal king in the Old Testament, or many of them does. And even the ages, the ages in 2 Kings chapter 1, you have the mantle of Elisha, I think, being prevalent there. And it links you back to the she-goat, the Aegis, A-E-G-I-S. Go look that up. It's all there, written in the Old Testament, of where all the gods that they describe in the Wikipedia and other literature describes all came from. And they were simply men who made themselves kings, and then from their gods gave themselves god names. That's what they did. And it was all an attempt to remove the true living God of Israel, found through the daughters and the women, who then over time, because of the piercing of her covenant and the defiling of Zion, come, let us look upon Zion, let her be defiled. The kings of the world takes counsel against Israel to bring her down. Let us cut her off from being a nation. And yet the true living God says, don't worry about them. This is all part and parcel of my huge and larger plan to give them all to you. And we find that Proverbs 1, she says, when I called, you didn't listen. Don't worry. You'll be no burden to me. Psalm 2, I'll send my rod through my daughter. This day I have begotten thee. That's her daughter Israel, the firstborn of her womb. And she says, now the nations will deal with her because she is the judge. You get that in Micah chapter 5. And so it says she will pursue. Okay, so where this leads us to, I'm not going to bother with verse 7 because that's just loaded. Therefore I will block her path with thorn bushes, and I will wall her up so that she cannot find her way. But where does she find her way? We'll read this and finish. I said this before. Micah 2, the last verse. She finds her way. She finds her way. All right? So this is just me studying Kings. It can lead you on the path of truth. For anybody who's having trouble realizing how Jesus is the image of Baal, your husband, as your Lord and your master, and how that came into play by Satan, the accuser, from the very beginning, who links you to the Lord, Beelzebub, your chief over the demonic spirits, you see. So, verse 13, Micah 2, the breaker is come up before them. They have broken up and have passed through the gate. That's through the wall. The gate is your gateway, your passage out through the wall, and have passed through the gate and are gone out by. And their king, no, it's not their king, their God, shall pass before them, and the Lord on their head of them all. So we'll look at a different translation. One who breaks open the way, the wall, will advance before them. They will break out, they will pass through the gate and leave by it. And the God will pass through before them. That's daughter Israel, the Lord as their leader. And so we're seeing all the connections. I don't know how anybody who doesn't really study. So I had looked at Sennacherib. So if I never punched in cherub because I was looking at it as cherub. So I don't think it'll come back. Yeah, it does. I believe it does. So I punched in Cherib, Strong's Hebrew, and it threw cherub at me. Possibly an order of angelic beings. Yeah, I think these are your fallen. These are your fallen. Yeah, that's almost what it's all looking like. The kings of the world were fallen. Satan, you're fallen. Your lead over the demons, right? So that was our Greek, our Strong's Greek. I forget the number now. See, I ain't got it up anymore. Now, why did I X that? Strong's Greek, Beelzebub, 954. That's what it was. Yeah. Go look at that one. Go look at that word. A name of Satan. Beelzebub. You see? Lord of flies. The fly god. Lord of dung. A title of Satan, which stresses he is the prince over the demons. He's the prince. Baal standing as Lord and God, and all woman yoked under that lie. They call her the bride. Right. You see the yoking of women under these kings who fell when they accused her. But then they gnashed upon her and she fell too, because she turned from the true living God and turned to the liar. That's what she did. And that's why you see return, return, O Shulamite, and the Psalms of Degree has her turning, which is why the world seems to be turning again. It's all connected to her returning back to her mother in the heavens, a true God who gives life to all things, not husband, not Baal, not an image of a man standing. Psalm 2, that stone cut out without hands, not Psalm 2, Daniel 2, will smash the toes on that false image of Beelzebub, who is also Jesus in the new. It's not Joshua. Joshua knew his beloved didn't bow to him because he never made himself out to be a god. It was the men of this world that took charge of the written word and wrote this mere mortal as a god. That's right. That's what they do best. The head fell. And so those are the kings taking counsel in Psalm 83 and saying, let us cut her off from being a nation. But tell Israel that she has borne the double and that her warfare has ended. That's in Isaiah chapter 40. So there we go. I know I didn't do a very good job on that. I really wanted to do better. I always do, but I never do. Just my way. The Spirit will use me the way she needs to use me, the way she needs me to be. And just something for y'all to look at. I'll make the links below, Wikipedia. I'll make them. I'll post them below. You can hit on them. And there's where I am in study. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun learning the truth and pursuing Satan. And we're going to knock him off that pinnacle that he's got himself exalted to. And it's only going to happen by those who are in pursuit of the truth, by those that the truth truly matters in their spirit, by those who's known in their spirit for many, many years that there's something wrong with the telling of the tale by men on the pulpit, which heavily, in my case, seem to be strongly partial towards the male and build him up. Yeah, I was under that teaching. I heard it, I saw it with my own eyes. You may be one of the special ones and got spared it, I don't know. All you gotta do is open your eyes. Look at what the women are going through in the Middle East. Look at what they're going through in so many parts of the world, everywhere, even in the West, under a religious lie, under a lie that says, well, we've been liberated. Have we really? Have we really? I think you need to open your eyes and take a deeper look at just what we have for our liberties and look at the mess that we're really in, because we have not turned. Return. Turn back. Turn back to the true living God, not to this religious lie and idol standing called God on earth. That's what the kings have built up. So anyway, there's a video. I know I babbled way longer than I intended to. Thanks for watching. Pray the Lord blesses you with an abundance of truth. Hope y'all have a lovely day. It's a beautiful day here, a little snowy, but that's okay. We're used to that. And thanks for watching.